Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and today we are very honored to have a very special guest. It is none other than Jun Li. How are you, Jun Li? Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Brad. Nice to talk with you.
Honestly, it's a true honor. Just some background information before we start for you, Jun. You were the co-founder and the chief architect of OnChain. You're the founder of the Ontology Network. You're based in Shanghai, one of the hotspots for blockchain research and technology. You have worked directly with Hongfei Da. And also, impressively, you've had 16 years of experience in IT, financial technology. You are the author of the MIIT blockchain standards, and you have also been involved with the China Financial Futures Exchange. So thank you so much. You're very experienced, and we're honored to have you on the channel. Thank you.
Yeah, a pleasure to be here. Okay.
So let's get started. The first question I want to ask you is obviously a very simple one. What is ontology? In a nutshell.
Okay, the name defines a distributed trust network. It's actually ontology actually is two important things. One is trust infrastructure. That means a lot of the trust cooperation in our daily life, different trust source approach, IT system, and we want to use a decentralized the platform or network can combine this kind of different trust source in the same way automatically to use that with a very low cost and to do that. Another is kind of the connector. They can link different service from real world to the digital world. And those kind of service can in one ecosystem or in networks in same structure can use directly and to work together and as automatically way. So that is the ontology want to do is work for infrastructure for the trust cooperation.
Okay, Jun, let's unpack that because one of the things we need to do is we need to simplify it for everyone. Because ontology is very important to NEO. It's very important to the overall network. Let's talk about, very simply, what ontology can do for NEO and for blockchain. What can it actually do?
Those kind of distributed the different protocol, the ontology can build a bridge between the real world and the digital world. As you mentioned, the currently included the NEO, most platform or the blockchain public platform is kind of the parallel world, another digital world. That world is with our own currency, own digital assets, but the connection with the real world is still very weak. So in the next phase, how the ontology can help for NEO, the ecosystem, that means next phase competition between the blockchain public platform like NEO, Ethereum, or even more. This kind of ecosystem competition, you need more and more support and functionality, platform or protocol modules can support the real business scenario or real business case, can move to the digital assets or digital world to do that. The ontology can do this kind of bridge, link to more and more business scenario running on ontology and link to NEO's ecosystem, smart ecosystem of digital asset service. That is can become a group, a new whole ecosystem. Do the competition with like the Ethereum, the other ecosystem.
Yes, that's a very exciting design that you've made. Obviously, it's not a blockchain. Let's make that clear. It's an ecosystem or a network. Let's pull it back a bit to talk about ontology. How is it that you are going to make not just NEO, but all appending protocols and blockchains trusted? And why is trust so important in business when we talk about money? Why is it so important?
Okay, when you review the most, when you look at your most things you have or a lot of equity or your house, your apartment, even your certificate, is always supported by the real world trust source, like the legal system, company, government, or the other more things. So you need to link this kind of trust source to the digital world and use the ecosystem or system to support it, to use this kind of different trust system approach more easily. So that is ontology want to do. Not only build a trust based on the technology in the digital world, also want to integrate the different trust source in the real world, and let them to use as a decentralized way. That means every individual can use their trust data, trust information from different trust sources, controlled by themselves.
Which is amazing.
That means that is all the cost for the trust cooperation will be lowered, cut down, and we have the very more easily to do the cooperation. Okay. When you review the daily work, a lot of cost will be used by building the trust and verify the trust and evaluate the trust. That is high cost and time consuming. The ontology want to do that.
Right, Jun, let's talk about just in terms of the middlemen. This is exciting because the distributed method is going to eliminate a certain group of people. How are you going to do that, and why is that important?
Okay, this is for example, you want to do the more cooperation. You only have this kind of address in the digital world or the NEO or the Ethereum or Bitcoin. That is not enough. Many times you have a different identity, you have a different information from different source. And when you want to do this kind of cooperation, you need to easily to verify my different the roles in the different system. And you should have a lot of time, you should put a lot of time to and cost to prove yourself. And sometimes even you cannot prove yourself without any tools approach or the system. Okay. So in this way, if we have the system, every people, every object, or even every content can prove itself. Mm-hmm. They can where the content from, who is the owner, where are you from, what's your background. Right. So everything can be trusted. Yep. That means we can do more and more the cooperation in this part.
So let's pull it back a bit. What you're saying is that autonomy, control from the self, is going to be possible, and also because of that, that's how you eliminate that middleman, and you go straight to the network itself and utilize the system to benefit you and to interact in that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's important because what we want to do is make sure people understand that ontology directly links with NEO in its support structure. So can you talk about how it directly does this?
Okay. One thing is you can see a lot of scenario in the real scenario in the real world. You cannot imagine all those kind of business case running on one public blockchain. Except no matter the performance, included performance, you cannot support that. Just like Ethereum is just a game for cat, is already become very slow. And another thing is maybe this kind of scenario need their own governance model. They have their concern about how the cooperation or collaboration, the message, and how the data be protecting, and how the data be do the storage. So a lot of concern about that. So that means we need a blockchain network. Different blockchain can support for different scenario, but they also need each blockchain, also like the countries, they need to do a lot of collaboration in the sense, and not only one kind of collaboration. That means the cross-chain part, they also have a lot of the protocol. Yes. That means when we build these networks, if ontology do that work, a lot of scenario, if they want to have the digital asset service, like the issue token or the digitalized or tokenized their assets, the NEO will be the digital assets service or smart economy service. They can provide the service, and they link to NEO to more and more real world scenario. Right. That scenario, if without ontology, those kind of case or business were not running on NEO. That is not exist.
Let's stop.
But with ontology, that is possible. Link more scenario to the NEO. Yeah.
Thank you for making that clear. So let's just reiterate that for a moment. What you're saying is that without ontology, as a trust network, as a provision of trust that can support and provide for specific capabilities and capacity, NEO wouldn't be as productive, it wouldn't be as efficient. And so they are mutually beneficial. They work together. Is that correct?
Yeah. And you can imagine for the computation part, if the one team or the project based on Ethereum, they do the similar things like the ontology, that will be terrible things for NEO. Yes. That means if ontology do that is in first, and they'll be more successful.
Yes.
That definitely will have a huge benefits for NEO. Right?
Well,
this is ecosystem computation.
Jun, let's talk about that. Since you went there, out of respect for the technology and the robustness of the whole network you're building, because you're not just building a blockchain. We know that Ethereum hasn't done something like ontology. Are you aware of anything in the world like ontology that's being designed?
Currently, we're not very clear is the same thing with ontology. The architecture or the vision or the scope is same with ontology. We still have not found right now, especially for Ethereum. Because Ethereum's version is a world computer.
Yes.
That means they want to support every scenario on Ethereum, one public chain. So, but that is our strategy is different with Ethereum, the chain network. They have no other public chain is talk about that.
Right.
So that is kind of another things to do. Yeah.
And Jun, if we talk about strategy, I've wanted to ask you this ever since I'd read about NEO. Is it fair to say that the strategy from the beginning, from the outset, was to design an ecosystem that included things like trust when the first premise for NEO was first thought up? Because the reason why I ask is that Hongfei Da, he explained recently that when he went to venture capitalists to present the case for the plan, he actually did mention trust as part of the plan. So was it always part of the system that you would eventually evolve into this very robust network?
You mean, pardon, your question is
well,
for which part?
So what I mean is, initially, obviously, we as the consumers learned about NEO as a blockchain.
Yeah.
But when Hongfei Da went to essentially try and garner support from the venture capitalists, meaning getting money to start the project, he explained that he presented an idea. So my question to you is, was it true that from the beginning, really the whole robust network, not just the blockchain, was conceptualized?
Okay. Actually, we have for the on-chain, you know, Hongfei and me, all these co-founder of on-chain, and we have is already realized that is cannot use one blockchain to do everything. That is key things. Every blockchain have their scope they will focus on. So we have a list several important the infrastructure level blockchain service. One is for the currency. Just as I mentioned, the currency is important. Even Bitcoin cannot be a currency. It just the currency is different. The futures actually.
Sure. Okay.
But that's currently we see the currency is maybe more needed to be done by the governments in this phase. Okay. Another is identity and trust. Without identity and trust, you cannot link to the real world because you cannot to link who is the owner for digital assets or token and a lot of things. And they need a contract, even a smart contract, they can support by legal system. Because without the legal system support, you can do something just for the digital assets, use smart contracts. When you link to the real world assets, you cannot do that without the legal system support. Right. So that is key thing. So we have a brain idea is called the identity chain. Right. So identity chain focus identity. And then we will for ontology. When I designed ontology, I realized even the identity only is part of even just a module, a part of the whole ecosystem. They still have a lot of more protocol and modules about the trust cooperation. Just the way we list in our introduction document is the community, the trust cooperation, and even financial service and the data exchange. All is more and more data, the trust, the cooperation scenario. Absolutely. So we think so. Identity is part of fundamental modules, and also the data exchange also is fundamental modules, but we need more and more this kind of fundamental modules and protocol support a different scenario. And we need to build a bridge to the real world to the digital world.
And just to stop you there for one moment, because I want to get on track with just how big this is, Jun. We know that you've made it very clear, so thank you, about that interconnection, that special connection with Ontology and Neo, and obviously on-chain. But let's talk about the possibilities and the potential of Ontology as a network for the wider frame, for the larger market. Obviously, it's pluggable. So you're thinking of it in terms of support for many protocols and blockchains. So let's talk about that and what that actually means for old tech, current tech, and new tech.
Okay.
How big can this be? How big can this really be?
Just I mentioned is the chain network is not only linked to blockchain. They can link the many traditional IT systems. That means a lot of the trust source or data or a lot of the process in the real scenario, they will involve many traditional IT systems. Okay. So with the ontology network, they can use different protocol to link the new system like the blockchain or distributed ledger, and also link to the traditional IT system together. You in the same process, even use the smart contract to support the process. Yep. That means that network can link we can say the old world and the new world together.
Right.
To finish the process.
So Jun, in that respect, let's make it really clear for all of the listeners. Can you give us some examples of business entities and companies that are what we would call old tech? Because you know some very big ones. And let's relate that to what you can do for those businesses. You could essentially make them plug into your network. So can you give us some examples of companies that could utilize this theoretically?
Okay. For example, if I have a financial institution, maybe a small financial institution, I have know a lot of the client's data, like the big bank, they have a client data, and I difficult to do the risk control evaluation for my clients. But I also can private our financial service list on the ontology. But I use another ways. Everyone want to apply the financial service. I will list what kind of information I want to have from you. Right. So everyone can link to they have the trust package behind every person. They can use the data and to share with the ontology, share with the financial institution. They can easily verify each data or each information is correct or not. Right. And then they can easily private the service. Okay. So the financial the change the rules to do that. Yeah.
Jun, let's pull it into the real world with brands. That's where I was really getting to. Let's talk about brands. Let's talk about companies like Baidu. Let's talk about companies like Google. Let's talk about Facebook. That's where I want to go with this. How big can ontology really be? Realistically, can these companies like this use it?
Actually, like the Facebook, maybe we future we can have the distributed community. That means the community can be controlled. Just as I mentioned, you can choose what kind of background or experience people to different groups, and you can peer-to-peer to do the communication and the message, the transfer the message. That's in future you can easily to build a kind of distributed Facebook in the future, and you can control privacy. So that's and in the future,
No, please go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So another is in that trust world, we also will have the search engine like Google or Baidu. The difference is I have mentioned before is whatever you searched out, the people, the objects, the content, your service, you can have the way or approach can easily and automatically to verify what is real and what is not, what is good and what is bad. So you can easily to filter and to figure out the real information. And every information has their life cycle history clearly. You can where the information from, who have the comments, who have a rating for that, who different information. You can easily to use the way to figure out that part. So that is different trust search engine in the future.
And that's extremely exciting given that you can use that old technology, the current technology, in terms of centralized data can be applied and utilized inside this decentralized network. So that sets it apart from everything in the world right now. And obviously, the profitability of some of these very large corporations as they move into decentralized markets are going to be looking for something like you. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, for currently a lot of the central the service, there can still be exist, and they also can have the new approach to private their service as a decentralized way, and they can build their service on ontology without any technical background. They just use protocol and plug in to the service to private that. Yeah.
That's exciting. Jun, let's cut to the chase about business and brands that you know of now. Have you had much support from these kind of big businesses, and have you seen any interest yet in terms of applications from these companies?
You mean have those kind of a big player interested in this?
Yeah.
Okay, I understand your means. Actually, I mentioned the strategy or the growth for those kind of distributed trust network is bottom up. Why I say that is because when you review all the scenario we have, because we list some example for the scenario, or you can try to use this way to reanalyze the currently real world scenario, you will find the game rules will be changed. Sure. That means will impact the benefits or profits for the current big player in different field.
That's exciting.
So the change will be a lot of the challenger we are more interested in use the new rules to build the new business case or business models to do the competition with the current big player. And the one thing is, unlike the internet, the startup, they can easily by covers or by how to say the big player will easily to beat you out the competition. But in this blockchain or distributed ways like the Alibaba or other internet big player, even they know that kind of new model will impact today, but they're difficult to change that, because if they want to use the decentralized way to do that, they need to clear themselves first.
Right.
So that is our opportunity to find more and more medium or small enterprise or company, even startup company, to do that, to build the new rules.
Well, what's interesting is that I've been lucky enough to talk to some of the CEOs of some of the businesses that are appending to the NEO blockchain. One of them, for example, is Apex, and Apex is the CEO is Jimmy Hu, and he is one of the top in the Forbes list. He's one of the top 30 under 30, so it's a really big deal. And what he said, coming from him, he explained that he would never have used the service if you didn't exist. If ontology did not exist, he would not have used it. We can't emphasize enough how important that is, because here you have a very, very big business backed by an even bigger one, the Chinapex. That's exciting for ontology. That's just one example. So that's why I asked you, because obviously you're thinking about going global and not just in China over in time. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course. Yes, we want to do the global service platform. Yeah.
Right. And two things I wanted to ask you in respect to that. Timing. Obviously, being the first in the world in terms of the time frame as we evolve in the blockchain, how important is it being first right now?
Okay. First, actually two things. One is those kind of architecture or vision or the design, the scope. Ontology is the first one. Yes. You mentioned about the chain network, the whole trust network. That is things. Another is development progress. Actually, the infrastructure level, the production, will already almost be done already. We are not unlike the other projects where they need to the funding and got money and become and then kick off the development. We already have the basic infrastructure already be done. And in Q1 next year, we will launch the public testnet for first version.
So let's stop there. Let's stop there for one moment. So Q1 testnet, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, I think even the development progress, we also is the first one for the push this kind of. So based on that, another is we also have a kind of the global impact or global influence. We can attract more partner to this, and also we have a strategy is we will choose. In different industry or fields, we will choose some the important, or we say the A-level the partners. We will support them for free to support them.
By A-level, do you mean the very best of the best?
Yeah, it's best. It's not about a big, but about the best. They have the
quality.
Best team to provide. Yeah, quality is good, and they can be a typical example for this field. That's when we will support them for free, and to support them build the decentralized trust service based on that. And then others can as an example to do that.
Sure. And Jun, let's talk about quality. You raised that very, very clearly. One of the things that, I mean, we can't ignore this fact. One of the things that sets NEO apart is the quality that they demand for any project to append onto their blockchain. You know that from experience with Ontology and its connections. That's what sets it apart from Ethereum from the outset, because there was no vetting, no clear vetting happening in Ethereum. What I'm impressed by is you're not only saying that, well, Hongfei Da is not only saying that that's going to happen for NEO, but it's going to happen for Ontology too, that you're going to make sure quality is right from the outset paramount. Is that exactly how you're going to approach Ontology? Is quality first?
Quality first, but not means we are not open for the other teams or other service. We still have an open API, then they can do that, build by themselves. Right. I mean, the quality is we will choose some team or some service that maybe is complex for some field. We will have put more support and even more customization for them to do the service. That's the reason is we want to build the production for that field. Because we want this kind of service, we can do a lot of customization in the initial phase and finish the customization, and we have the proof, okay, this process or this module can workable. The customization will transfer as a production. They will private more and more other teams, they can use that. Okay. So that is kind of the customization to production and private to public. That is a process.
Right, so let's just recap. So what you've made it really clear is that you're focused on quality from the beginning, but you're also a platform for the entire world to plug into. So you're going to make that possible from a really good quality structure. But let's talk about, in that design, let's talk about the technology. One of the things that sets you apart by far is your Ontchain engine. Without going into the technicalities, because that's very difficult for people to understand, why is that so revolutionary? Because in terms of things like speed and scalability and power.
Okay. One is two things for compare with other public chain, the difference for ontologies. One, we can support it very deeply. The deeply means even the customization is not only the API or module or protocol level. Even for some specific scenario, we can build the whole blockchain or distributed ledger system for them. That is kind of the vertical integration for the business scenario. They can build their models from zero. That is one thing. Another is a lot of module and protocol for specific industry or specific business scenario. We will build for them for this kind of we can support to the last mile, the high level, the protocol and API modules. Not only the smart contract, they even needn't to build their own smart contract. They can use the module and protocol directly to use it. And we will try to standardize those kind of protocol and module for specific industry. And they can be reusable for the other team, other company use in this industry to use that. That kind of means every team and company, they needn't care about the technical part. They can just focus on the business model.
Jun, sorry to interrupt, but let's really unpack that so that the listener can understand. What you're saying is that Ontology is going to work with on-chain, because on-chain has a protocol called DNA, which is going to be the platform for enterprise. So with Ontology support, what you're saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but just so that listeners know, and we can make it really clear, you are going to provide a platform where you can be a service also for enterprise, where they don't need to know the technicalities of the protocol, but they can build their blockchains for enterprise through Ontology and on-chain together. Is that right?
Yes, on-chain is an important supporter for Ontology, but the Ontology will be the public, maybe have more and more community technical support in the future. Everyone can contribute to their module, specific module as well. But in the initial phase, on-chain will, like the DNA or the other framework and the modules, they can do the customization for the different service. Like if you have needed a different governance model with different consensus model, we can build a totally different blockchain for the specific scenario. And they use the protocol linked together on the Ontology network. That means every team and company, they have a more choice, can meet their almost all the requirements for this part.
And that particular part is very exciting, because that interconnection between on-chain and Ontology is the very reason why the whole ecosystem has value, because they all interact. Let's talk about interoperability. One of the things we notice right now is there are some alliances happening with certain blockchains, we won't mention them, where they're trying to strengthen their alliance for interconnecting. In terms of interoperability in the ecosystem that is the NEO network, how are you addressing interoperability through things like cross-chain interoperability?
In country, many times people mention the cross-chain. There also means like the Cosmos or the other cross-chain protocol. That also means the cross-chain digital assets exchange. But just like I mentioned, every blockchain like the country, you cannot imagine the two countries just use one kind of contract to work together. They have a more complex the relationship. They need more kinds of the contract or protocol to work together. They're similar like the cross-chain. The cross-chain, depending on their scenario or business process, they have a different protocol. For example, the entity mapping also is kind of cross-chain protocol, or data exchange, cross-chain exchange also is kind of protocol. Of course, the digital assets, different digital assets exchange also is the cross-chain protocol. And the Ontology will try to support the more and more protocol between the cross-chain. And those protocol will also try to support more and more international standards for those protocol.
Okay.
That means even a new blockchain, they can choose protocol to work together.
Yeah. Okay, so that was amazing. You know, for those who don't understand, we're talking about interconnecting so that it can be more viable as a whole ecosystem. But let's talk about compliance, because that's the buzzword at the moment. Let's go to Japan. It happened last week. We're talking about QRC. For those who don't know, that's the legal framework plan to make it possible for ICOs to become legally compliant on the NEO blockchain. How does Ontology relate to that?
Okay, actually, Ontology can support for several parts. Just mentioned, they can private their trust service on Ontology. Like if they have a legal system, the legal system maybe include many factors for the legal. So for example, the identity linked to the real world identity, or some data exchange or information for the verification. The Ontology can provide the technical support for those kind of legal system. But when you run a legal system, you need a technical platform to do this.
That's exciting. So let's really unpack that, because many people want to know how important this compliance is and what it actually is in terms of the legalization of ICOs. So how big is this, Jun, this plan of the NEO ecosystem to make it possible globally to have legal ICOs? How important is that?
Actually, the real thing, the fact is we are not have a one legal system can support globally, because different country or area have the different legal system or requirement. But a legal system can support many important countries or important areas. That means you already can do some ICO, based on ICO. You already cover the several major market. That is enough sometimes, and then you can add more and more terms to the legal system to cover more areas.
Right.
So we cannot, from my opinion, is cannot use one legal system to cover all over the world scenario. You need to have the basic legal system and to cover several important market, and then you can add more and more legal terms for the other market.
Yeah. So given that that's in the roadmap of NEO to try and work on a network, and obviously the recent partnerships which were very important for QRC in Japan, do you foresee in the near future that there will be some sort of framework that relates to each of different countries, as you said, but a framework that will make it possible for compliance and for ICOs to become legalized in some respects, so that it becomes, again, not a digital asset necessarily solely on that basis, but a real world asset?
I think it's possible. Actually, it's just to mention, it's kind of the tokenization is a tokenization part. For the real assets, they also can, just like the real assets can transfer to as a digital assets. But in this process, they need the real world legal system to support that. You can be the tokenized, but the back end, you need the different legal system to support that. So I think that is possible, yeah.
So when do you think that's likely to evolve as part of the NEO network plan?
Okay, that is also one of things the ontology want to do is we want to link the real, for example, the real assets, and put the link to the legal system and the real identity, and also the identity for the objects. And then they can tokenize those kind of assets and issue the token on the NEO platform, do the trading, clearing, or settlement on the NEO. And the ontology can be the bridge to link to the real world identity verification and even the meet requirement for different legal systems, and help the real world assets to become the digital assets. They can trade it and they can transfer back as real assets.
So in terms of timeframes, clearly it's on your agenda for Q1 and 2 next year to make sure that you're part of this plan of compliance.
We are the ontology team. We are focused on building the infrastructure and the protocol. For those kind of real scenario, we will encourage our partner to do that, because partners have a different resource in the real world. Maybe they have the government's backgrounds. They know a lot of the different the company or the partnerships. They can try to let the real world assets do the tokenized. Ontology will support for the process. NEO will support for the token issue. And the partner also will get benefits or even get profits during the process. That's kind of build the ecosystem together.
Okay, so let's pull that back for the listeners. So what that means is that companies like QRC is not the only company that's going to deal with compliance. And CoinFirm, for example, they're going to deal specifically with things like compliance and legalities and that sort of thing. And your facility is actually working with companies like this to make sure that different countries around the world can have globally compliant ICOs. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Maybe even the QRC or more companies, they have those kind of capability to do the legal system in different countries or different areas. We can support them and work as a collaboration with them to do the process for the tokenized or issue ICO.
Yeah. Jun, thank you for clearing that up, because many people want to know about how compliance works. So essentially, let's just go through it really quickly. You are the network for trust. Those companies like QRC and CoinFirm provide compliance in legal systems, much like lawyers would do. And then through those systems, you then have potentially a means for viable real-world assets, potentially next year and the year after. So it's not necessarily a case you have to wait years down the track once you have these compliance services connected to the NEO network. Is that? Are we on the right track there?
Yes, yes, and more and more, actually the QRC is kind of the partners for that field, and even we will try to attract more and different partners. Maybe focus on not only the legal framework. Maybe some of the more scenario they can think of a private distributed service, or just use the digital the traditional assets they want to tokenize. Right. Tokenized not only support from legal systems. There are other use the technical approach also can do the tokenized.
Okay.
Like the diamond trading. They are not only supported by the legal system, also supported by the technical because they have a lot of future too. So anyway, they want to do the tokenized to link to the digital assets or digital world. We will help for that.
Yeah. Wow, that's exciting. So thanks for clearing that up. I guess one of the things we could probably talk about now is the law chain component. So on-chain has a law chain child blockchain. How does that relate? Because we know law chain is the private component, but I've always wondered, how do they relate with ontology?
And the law chain can private their service and on ontology. Just as I mentioned, the law chain will have a record, the many data records or behavior records, the business process or steps records on blockchain. And the record also linked to some of the authorities backed by the governments or backed by the legal system. And when you have the issues about the legal issues, you can use law chain as an approach or tools to easily for the to do the real the legal contract based on that, the digital contract or legal contract based on that. So law chain will support a specific service for those parts, those kind of requirements. Yeah.
So let's move across now to ontology. It's the public counterpart. And the reason why I wanted to ask you, even though it's a public blockchain, it's clear that it also supports enterprise, consortium, and public blockchains, not just public blockchains.
Yeah.
Okay.
We define the ontology network as a public permissioned blockchain. It's the public blockchain, they have a multiple blockchain. Some blockchain or private or public service, that means it's real public. Everyone can in, everyone can out. And for some blockchain in the ontology network is kind of a permission blockchain. If you want to join this blockchain, you need to follow that blockchain's governance model.
Right.
That model is designed by those kind of the partnerships or the partners. They define their own governance.
And once again, that's one of the key features that sets you apart from Ethereum, because they don't have what they call a permissioned system. So let's talk about something that I've wanted to ask you directly. In the research with on-chain, it's clear that there are interconnections even at a local level with government. I know it's a controversial discussion about even saying the word government, but it just how real is the connections with government and on-chain? Just on-chain.
It's actually government also need a private public service. It's because like the US government, they also have the applies strategy, means open data to the public. And China also have a similar service and requirement for this. The government's data need open to the public sometimes, or the service. And they also, when the private service to the public or data to the public, they also, of course, they can use their own system to open that. But they still have a lot of cooperation scenario. Many processes cross different governance department and system. They also want to have the kind of the public platform to support this process, and it can be easily be used.
Sure.
But the public platform cannot truly all the publics. Everyone they need to consider the data, the privacy or protection. If we have the chain network like ontology, they can build their own blockchain system with governance models.
Right.
And also use a specific protocol to.
Sorry, we'll just wait for a moment for that connection to come back, and we'll continue on. Sorry. So, Jun, could you restate that? We lost the connection for a moment. We were talking about government and those the need for privatization for the government. The government has made it clear with your interconnections that they are considering utilizing on-chain. But then we have another thing called NEOX, and what that does is it bridges the worlds of public and private blockchains, particularly in terms of an asset. So can you talk about that from your knowledge, how NEOX could potentially be a gateway as one of the enhancements planned for next year? How could that actually help with someone who owns NEO?
Okay. The public, even the private government system or blockchain, they also need to private service to or data or the other, even in the future, maybe the digital asset service to public. They need a different channel to private their service, not only their own private IT system. So those kind of cross-chain the protocol with data privacy or data protection, the protocol, they can use this way as a platform to private the public service for the citizens or for the individuals. This is the easy way. This is why they choose the public blockchain. There's two reasons. Is government have a strong the reputation in their own countries, but more and more public service or data or they need to support some of the global the cooperation in the future. A lot of global cooperation already become like G20 or the other group. When the citizens or companies they need to do the global the business, the data also need to be trusted by other countries.
Right.
You cannot just use your own government's IT system to store or control every information. You also need a kind of the public blockchain. They can running together with other countries, even other countries' government together to store some data records that everyone can verify each other to prove your data is true. This is kind of cooperation. Yeah.
Okay, so let's work on something as a concept, Jun. So you're saying that the government clearly has interactions with on-chain. As the founder of on-chain or the co-founder, you know more than anybody about those connections. You've also mentioned that NEO is the public blockchain and that has its asset value, and you've talked about that interoperability between the two. So this is the big question in terms of profitability and value for money. Would it be fair to say that the NEO asset is going to benefit directly once these things become more clear in the future? Once the government's interactions with on-chain start to become more clear, and also the NEOX protocol becomes active, is it fair to say that that's going to essentially benefit the asset as the NEO token?
One thing is when you use those kind of protocol to do the cooperation or the things, many times you need to use like the smart contract to support that, because you need to smart contract not only for the digital assets exchange. Sometimes they also can be used to control the business logic or the process. When you use smart contract to set those kind of process and the logic steps, you need the token or gas to support the smart contract running. So if more and more this kind of scenario, business logic, process steps is set in the smart contract, definitely they need to consume more gas. Yeah.
So let's unpack that again. So is the plan to use NEO as the asset token, is the plan to use that in the enterprise frame, to use it in the enterprise space as well? Is that the plan?
When the two, for example, the enterprise, when a business process will involve the enterprise, even involve governments, they also want to have the public platform use the smart contract to set the process, because everyone trusts the smart contract. But everyone, the participants, they use the smart contracts. They will use the gas to running that, right?
I see.
The different parts. That is for those scenarios to help them to do the cooperation. They also need a pay cost to run the cooperation. That is definitely not for free, right? If for free, everyone will run many different unnecessary process. That is not make sense.
Okay.
So that's a way. If more and more those kind of scenario happen, definitely the gas need more gas to support the smart contracts.
So what you've made clear for the listeners, I think, is that the plan for dApps to be in a private scenario is not the plan of Onchain. Onchain's plan is to be the protocol that On sells for enterprise, and then you have the dApps designed for public Onchain. For the public platform that is Neo. So is that true? You're not planning on having a separate private dApp-based platform. Is that right?
Yeah, Onchain will not build their own private platform. All the platform we support is always public platform, like Ontology and Neo. And of course, the governments maybe will build their own private or permissioned blockchain, but that is more like an internal system. If they want to do the public cooperation between the enterprise, between the different governments, or between the different countries, they will choose the public platform to do that, because everyone trusts the public platform. Use smart contract.
Jun, that's music to our ears. That truly is, because when everybody understands that that is Neo is the public blockchain, that's extremely exciting. So thank you for making all of that clear, because I've never read some of the things you're saying, and we're excited to have you to be the founder stating these facts. Okay, so we've talked about NeoX, we've talked about pluggability. I wanted to talk to you about the backing of Ontology, because many people don't understand that. Who is the backer of Ontology? Who is the CEO? Who's the boss?
Maybe I'm founder of Ontology. Ontology not set the CEO directly. Just Neo also have no CEO. We are not set directly this position. I will be the Ontology leader. The team leader, and most Ontology team currently were from the on-chain, and also will include some of the third-party technical members and the community technical members. Finally, the Ontology will be a public project. That means they are not control, not belong to the on-chain. So on-chain is a kind of the founder. Company founder, they launched the Ontology, but Ontology not controlled by the on-chain.
Thank you for clearing that up. I only ask because I want to clear it up for everybody what Hongfei Da's relationship is in terms of financial support. Is he is he the primary backer financially for Ontology?
Okay, Hongfei Da is Neo's founder. So they still will focus on the Neo's work. And in Ontology, Hongfei Da only the advisor for some strategy advice or ecosystem advisor, but is not a form team member. Will not be the form team member. He still will focus on Neo.
And do you find that you interact much together? Because obviously they're interconnected by design, but do you talk much?
Yes, the strategy and the ecosystem, we will, just I mentioned, the Ontology and Neo will be in the same ecosystem.
Yes.
And for the Ontology, every Ontology needs digital assets like smart economy service. The Neo will be the service provider. We will link more and more scenario to the Neo. That's definitely not to the Ethereum, right? Yeah, that is our strategy work together.
It's so exciting. So what I wanted to do is just, because obviously you're very pressed for time and I appreciate your time today, if we could just talk about some of the examples of how this can be applied in the real world. I've given you some strategy, like some ideas. So you could have social, government, and public applications. And you have in your white paper a very clear diagram of communities, and you have examples of how it could fit. So can you talk us through examples in the real world, in terms of industry, in terms of application?
Okay. For example, the digital data exchange. the data exchange, distributed data exchange, you can build the data from a different participant or the third-party data. The data is still in the original place, and you can do the exchange together. And another case is just the financial service I mentioned. You can open your financial service on Ontology, and the individual will private their information to you. And also you can build your own distributed community on the ontology, and based on community, even you can do the e-commerce service for the community. Wow. And based on that, you can build your distributed reputation system. You can use the different behavior information or history records on the blockchain to use the rating system or models to get the reputation evaluation. Everyone can have many different Reddit scope from different aspects with different information. Wow. They can use those kind of scope for apply different service, maybe financial service, maybe it's government service, that's fine. So that's a lot of, another case is content trading. That's it. Yeah.
Amazing. So clearly the scope of it is massive. And right now, as one example, we know of the Key. The Key obviously is a very big project. It's had pilot work in cities in China. Given that there's going to be a layer within the ontology ecosystem, can you foresee projects as big as this also in the future operating in the network?
I'm still not so very clear the key is the backend technology part. Maybe they're still working for that. But why is possible is the key can private their identity verification, because they're more focused on identity verification part. And the backend verification scope is focused on some the China, some local governments data for the verification. So they can be one of identity verification private on Ontology, list their service. Of course, Ontology will include many more the other identity services like KYC, even from different country. Sure. The key can be one of the service.
And just to keep on that track for one moment, I'm speaking with Catherine from the Key later next week. But what is impressive, again, is that there were pilot projects done and authorized by at least local governments in China, because it would have had to have been done that way. And again, it just reinforces those interconnections, those government interlinks with on-chain, and a robustness of support, which is very exciting for an investor, because you can really start to see this puzzle come together as a very innovative blockchain system. So if we want to talk a bit more about money, let's move across to that. Let's talk about the token structure and why is it exciting for next year?
Ontology will have the token system definitely, because still have a lot of scenario need the token support, and we are still design the token models, and we'll release soon. And we also will do the funding for the token distribution, and but the how do the distribution, what kind of investor we will involve in, institution or individual, we are still in discussion. I'm not confirmed yet, but we will announce maybe in short term.
Yeah, so clearly it's short term. And the reason why I ask you is because if you delve into the research, you start to hear suggestions of a utility token called ONG and a governance token called ONT. So are we on the right track that there's going to be an ontology utility and a governance token like Neo's design?
Yes, that will be maybe will be an option for us. Maybe the dual token system is we are considering right now. Even they're not confirmed yet, but we are highly possible to use that way.
So let's just say, out of respect for the listeners, that it's not confirmed yet, and it's still something that you're working on for Q1. In
Q1 definitely will be done. Yeah.
So definitely we'll know by Q1.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe more earlier.
Okay, yeah. So I can read between the lines. Thank you for that, Jun. Okay, so you've talked about that. That was really clear. You've explained the relationship with all of the three. I guess one of the things that we want to talk about now is sorry, you've just answered so many of the questions. It's big banks. I wanted to talk to you about this because in the research I did, I found on-chain were doing some research with relation to emails and payment rail systems. We know that Stellars are going to be working with NEO in that respect. So can you tell us more about the research you've done to be able to facilitate, or if you have done any, to make it the payment system possible on on-chain, on Ontology? Because that's going to be relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, payment system actually is currently in China is moneyless, like the Alipay or the Tencent Pay already becomes the mainstream usage for the payment field, and in the future, and we think is the settlement of the payment across different banker or even across country, they can use based on the blockchain to do that. Of course, the gateway to do that, like the Ripple also is doing this way, but that way is not technically is not difficult to implement it. It's important is how to build the ecosystem. That means more partners want to play with you. That is important. So and if you want to do the real world payment support, the fundamental things is you need to have the real world digit, the identity, and link to the real world with a different legal system. And then you do the payment. You can support the payment, even the cross-country payment, and support AMA, KYC, a lot of the regulation requirement.
Right.
So ontology, if build the fundamental models, if we can do that, that's part where that we have a strong identity and model. We can support more and more payments scenario.
And also, Jun, let's be clear as well about the mode in which you did that research, that plan, in that it was a peer-to-peer system. And I remember seeing that there were even mobile phones held up in one of the, in a French bank as an example of the on-chain research that was being done. And that was because you were able to utilize a payment system right down to the hardware of a phone, which was quite amazing.
Yeah. If you do that, that is possible. But one thing is kind of client-based payment. For example, I have money in the Europe bank, one of the Europe bank, and the bank also gave my signature, prove my client, and I can use this client to do the payment to another country. That is possible.
Right.
You can do that is off-chain, even offline to do that.
Okay.
But the key things is they still need a lot of the cooperation or integration with different banks for that. But most case in the short term or medium term, I think is Ripple's gateway or is maybe still a workable model in the short term. Yeah.
In that respect, Jun, is the plan to outsource some of this protocol and some of these technologies to companies like Stellar as an example? It's specifically designed for finance. It's used as a payment rail. Are you considering utilizing services for that peer-to-peer capacity like Stellar, just like NEO is looking at that as well?
Yes. Those kind of protocol also is kind of for example, just I mentioned like the cross-chain protocol or the specific industry protocol.
Okay.
We also will try to work together with partner to design and implement this kind of protocol to support us in. Yeah.
In terms of partnerships, let's move across now to, and I really wanted to talk to you about technologies that relate specifically to operating systems and search engines. Because the reasoning is that there are strong connections, very strong, with those kind of technologies and the NEO ecosystem that includes you. And I want to make this clear. So Elastus is building an operating system. They've spent 17 years on that. There's also Nebulous, which is being designed by some of the original founders of NEO, of the AntShares. So what I wanted to talk to you about was these are very specific projects. We know Elastus is going to be a dApp on the ecosystem. So can you foresee these businesses or these technologies being integrated into the wider system because they fit so beautifully and they also have clear connections?
Yeah, for Elastos, we already become a partnership and partners, and do the collaboration. The on-chain team is building the blockchain for Elastos. So the Elastos blockchain infrastructure will be built by on-chain and all the partners to that. Of course, that is. And Nubilis, I'm not familiar with that project. I'm not very clear about the details about that. And the founder of NEO is very earlier. Even start kick off the project, they already quit. So that is history.
just for listeners' sake, the reason I asked you about Nebulis is because obviously the founders, some of the founders of the original NEO are involved, but also Loopring is involved too, which is very important to NEO. And we don't need to explain that today, but it's just that there are overt interconnections, and that's why I asked you. It's not like a separate entity outside of China. This is one that's actually operating in. So thank you for making that extremely clear. I guess the last thing I wanted to say, because it's been a very, very interesting interview, is that let's move across to 2020, Jun. You're sitting in your office in 2020, and you're looking back at what you've achieved. What do you think you see?
I want to say that time is the new world already coming, and because just as I mentioned, that is next generation infrastructure. Because currently we are like the industry and the current internet age, information age is kind of this kind of infrastructure. Still a lot of issue we are facing, where individuals have lots of control by our data, and a lot of big player almost controls everyone daily life and business model. And in the future, I think the distributed trust network will become true in that day, and I believe that.
And I guess to make it more related to your project, do you see yourself as the leader of these enterprises and these projects and networks?
Of course. One thing is like we also have the token reward to team and so, but they have the long-term locked, the more than 4 years.
Right.
So in that time, I still believe we're working for the ontology and still working for the trust network in that time.
And Jun, just to finish off, because you mentioned this, and I think it's so important to incentivize our listeners. We know that there's a store of money in the NEO Bank for development and for promotion. So would you encourage people to, promote through social media or through development? Would you encourage that, utilizing some of that, that bank of resources in the next few years? Are you encouraging that kind of thing?
Yes, we both NEO and Ontology will set that kind of foundation to support the community contribution, including the marketing, PR, and of course technical contribution and even the ecosystem contribute. That is also is public blockchain should do, and the important is we will encourage people to do that and welcome more and more people join us to do that.
Jun, I'm sure after this interview, many people are going to be doing that. This is one of the most exciting and most robust projects in the blockchain space anywhere in the world. If not, it's sets itself apart in many ways. It's an absolute honor to be speaking with you, Jun. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking with you again if you'll allow that to happen in the future.
Yeah, and I appreciate your good interview, and and I appreciate you works for NEO and for Ontology, and the future. I think we can have more cooperation in the future. Yeah.
You are absolutely welcome, my friend. Thank you, Jun, on behalf of all the listeners around the world.